Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. And a very good afternoon to the respected dignitaries, my fellow batchmates, and my juniors. With immense pride and pleasure, on behalf of ANNEXES, the Alumni Committee of MDIM Murshidabad, I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural event of the Alumni Talk Series with Niraj Mahapatra from the batch of 2017. To bless this occasion with their presence, we have our director, Professor Dr. Atmanand sir, Associate Professor Dr. Subhajit Bhattacharya sir, and who is Professor of Marketing and Chairperson of Alumni Relations Committee. We also have Professor Dr. Birenchi Narayan sir, who is also Professor of Marketing with MDI Murshidabad and Chairperson of Online Program Committee. Now I'd like to request Professor Dr. Birenchi sir to please take over this auspicious occasion and bless us with a few words of
Hello.
wisdom. Yes, sir.
ତତେ ମୁଁ କରୁଛି ତୁ ତତେ ଗୋଟେ ଲିଙ୍କ ପଠଉଛି ତୋ ଲିଙ୍କ ପଠଉ ତୋ ଝିଅ କଣ ଦେଖିବ ବୋଲି ତୋ ଲିଙ୍କ ପଠଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ଜୁମ୍ ଲିଙ୍କ ପଠଉଛି ତୁ ଦେଖ ତୁ ବସିକିରି ଝିଅ କଣ ଦେଖିବା ପାଇଁ ହେଲା ପରେ ତତେ କରୁଛି ହଁ ହାଇଦ୍ରାବାଦ ପରେ ପରେ କରୁଛି ହେଲା
Hello, Birenchi sir.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. So at the outset, let me take this opportunity to welcome our director, sir, for this particular webinar conducted by the Alumni Committee. And it is my privilege and it is a proud moment for all the MDIM stakeholder that we have our alumni from the batch of 2015 and 17, Mr. Niraj Mahapatra, who is working with Next Talking in United States of America, and he has given his consent to be a part of this particular program and with his speech. So, but at any point in time, when you see that the alumni are coming and interacting with the current batch students, it is a proud moment for any institute. So that is what the opportunity is there for MDI Murshidabad as well. So let me introduce Mr. Niraj. So Mr. Niraj Mahapatra is a global supply chain and logistic professional having a diverse background with Series AC technology startup and as a consultant with myriad of core industries, as a front runner and firm believer in the impact of innovation. He has launched, collaborated, designed, process-driven frameworks and technology and also the non-technical products. So the current area of focus of Mr. Mahapatra is technology consulting, supply chain management, global logistics, plus maritime shipping, product management, Leans and Six Sigma, user experience, and user interface management. So with this, let me welcome Mr. Niraj Mahapatra to this particular webinar. And at the same time, it is a proud moment for all of us. And always I feel proud when I take this opportunity to introduce our director, sir, to the august body. So Dr. Atmanand is a renowned economist, administrator, and academician, currently working as a director of MDI Murshidabad. He has worked as a director, additional charge of MDI Gurgaon as well. He is also the independent director of Central Bank of India and PTC India Limited, and was also independent director of Steel Authority of India Limited. Dr. Atmanand's experience in teaching, research, and consultancy is of more than 34 years. He is one of the longest serving deans of India. He has undertaken many new initiatives like the launch of the MDI School of Energy Management, Journal of IMD Ghaziabad, and established MDIM Murshidabad, to name the few. He has contributed to various national responsibilities as member of the State Finance Commission, Government of Bihar, Planning Commission, Government of India, and as member of ad hoc task force, Cabinet Secretary, Government of India, member of Review Committee, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, member of Advisory Committee, Ministry of Power, Government of India. Professor Atmanand has authored 16 books and published more than 100 research papers in referred national and international journals. He has undertaken several consulting assignments in the area of energy, insurance, infrastructure projects, social development, and leadership. He specializes in public enterprise management, management of energy, and environment. So, apart from this, his contribution of many years has been recognized in the form of awards like Rashtriya Gaurav Award for his excellence and contribution in the nation building, Indian Achievers Awards for corporate leadership in 2010, Economic Development Award for excellence in higher education 2011, Exemplary Global Leadership Award 2010, and appreciations letters from various departments like Ministry of Power, Government of India, and also from Steel Authority of India Limited. Professor Dr. Atmanand's vision statement is to have people around him who are thinkers and doers in one person. He spread the policy of connect, nurture, and grow. So, with this introduction to the August body, let me once again welcome Dr. Atmanand for his inaugural speech at this auspicious gathering in the occasion of the alumni meet, alumni webinars on the theme that is, as you know, that the ALohomora people have given, and there is a nice tagline for that. So it is the opening the door for conversations. So I'm now opening the door of this alumni committee and welcome our director sir for his inaugural speech. Director sir, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Biranji. And it gives me immense pleasure, first of all, to appreciate the great effort made by the MDIM Alumni Committee, we call it ANNEXES, Nitin and his team members, and under the able guidance of Dr. Subhajit Bhattacharya and Professor Biranji, to take a wonderful initiative. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, meanwhile, the power got disconnected. So, 1 minute, please. Yeah, just now the power is. Yeah, so sorry for interruption in the time of disruptions. Anyway, so I just said that it was a wonderful initiative taken by the MDIM Alumni Committee. I still know that 2 years back, in fact, we had decided to develop the alumni committee. And in 2018, in fact, the first national alumni meet was held here at MDI Gurgaon when I was heading at MDI Gurgaon. And it was a wonderful experience. Since then, we decided to take this alumni and ANNEXES forward and move forward and connect with all our alumni members today, tomorrow, and in the future. I would like to first of all put on record the important work done by the alumni committee. Our all alumni members all over the country, outside India also. Niraj is from USA. They are doing great job. We appreciate their valued contribution for the cause of MDIM. Mr. Niraj, who is a very distinguished speaker today, and in fact, we are delighted to have you the first speaker in our function called ALohomora, which is a webinar talk series organized by ANNEXES. Welcome, Mr. Niraj, right from USA. And I think you are the right person because you have a very good and rich experience of working with several companies in India and as well as in the USA in the area of supply chain management, logistics supply chain management. And I think you would be able to guide and also inspire our students towards the right direction. Thank you very much, Mr. Niraj. I also appreciate all the committee members for their wonderful job. And I wish all of them all the best for future endeavors. It fills my heart with great joy and enthusiasm to see that even in such difficult times, when the world is struggling to survive, the student of MDI Murshidabad is striving to continuously gain and accumulate knowledge. This in turn will go into serving this society and their respective industries when they leave this institute to fulfill their dreams and goals. In fact, this webinar itself is a great example and a proof of it, where we have our alumni who is living this dream, fulfilling his duties, and like a responsible senior, has returned to share his experiences and knowledge with his juniors to equip them well and get ready for the world outside. With this great initiative, I hope that my students will not only gain the contemporary knowledge of the industry, but also try to inculcate in their academics too. Mr. Niraj Mahapatra from the class of 2017, I remember him because at that time I was in MDI Gurgaon, whose presence will surely elevate the academic aura in and around. Niraj Mahapatra is one of the exemplary portrayals of the phrase carving your own niche, from PGDM at MDI Murshidabad to global supply chain at the University of Southern California. Niraj has been illustrious throughout. Currently working in the operations domain at Next Trucking, a tech startup based out of Los Angeles. He is paving the path for a career full of substantial understandings. I would like to take 2 minutes to draw your attention towards how MDI Murshidabad was set up. From laying the foundation stone on 31st October 2010 by Bharat Ratna respected Sri Pranab Mukherjee to its inauguration on 24th August 2014 by Sri Pranab Mukherjee. And let's see Arun Jaitley to now, MDI Murshidabad has come a long way in terms of imparting quality management education. The journey up till now has been full of excitement, challenge, and unmatched zeal. To propel a continuous learning ambience, student-driven activities are a must. Apart from academics, students must learn how to work as a team, how to work under constraints, how to manage their time, how to establish work-life balance, how to develop new skill sets, how to develop a strong mindset, etc. The phase of 2 years is like a workshop for the students to where they get into myriad of activities and get a reality check as to how world operates. They develop aptitude through their constant efforts, which would help them carve a niche for themselves in future. ALohomora is a mix of nostalgia and experience, topped with rich anecdotes and a platter full of interaction, and opening the door for conversation where the alumni of MDI Murshidabad are welcome on a platform for engaging interactions to enrich this generation of Mandavians. A platform where the past and the present will join forces for a better future. I would like to conclude. Conclude that the intelligence of a person who travels in different countries and associates with the scholars expands. Just a drop of oil expands in water. So today is the day when the young minds have a golden chance to associate themselves with another young mind. So learn and ask questions and expand the cognitive boundaries for good. Thank you all and wish you all the best. Yeah.
To carry forward the session, I'd like
Yeah,
to
Pratik.
invite, Niraj Mahapatra to please take over. To begin with this, first of all, I would like to get it known to all the participants of this event that in case during the session you have questions or you want to interact with him or you want to ask anything to our speaker Niraj Mahapatra, you can either raise your hands or post it in the chat box here. However, we do have a Q&A session at the end of this event where you will get an opportunity to interact and ask your questions. Being said this, I guess Neeraj, we are good to begin.
Awesome, amazing. First of all, thank you, Professor Atmanan, for your kind words. I think we have had very few interactions when we had exchange semester in India, Gurgaon, and I believe all this constitution and the effort of the students has actually helped me to propel and initiate this event with the alumni committee. And from that perspective, I'm thrilled, and I'll make sure that I live up to the expectation. So, so I'll just share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. I'll just pass it to. Nathan, you're good as host? Cool, awesome. Good to start. So yeah, just good afternoon, guys. It's really good to be back. And again, in different times, I would have been in campus, and it would have been nicer. But I believe we have to make do of these times and make the best of the out of the opportunity which we have. And from that perspective, I I've actually like just to start with, this has been a great experience, and I think we like this was kicked off, I believe, a month and a half back when I reached out to the media PR and alumni committee, and I was like, hey guys, let's do this, and this is a good time for us to get together and interact and and kind of because we are actually moving into a new era where we are transforming digitally overnight. Like that's what happened. That's what made businesses realize things, where there were trends, technology, innovation, which used to push people to make new things. This, it was an external factor. This pandemic was an external factor which resulted in creating this opportunity. So all in all, it's been an amazing experience, and we'll see through this session. Again, I've like put together a few slides just to make sure we have a good interaction. Plus, it's very general idea of how complex things are and how simplified the approach can be. That's basically how it is. Like in terms of when we talk about global supply chain consulting, these are just functions. It's like these are just how we are doing businesses in the world. But what's your strategy is basically your strategy. This we when we were students, when I was a student, what was my strategy? So this is basically to suggest what your strategy is, what will be your future strategy, what is your current strategy, things like that. So it's as simplified as it goes. It's just a plan and from that perspective, how do you make sure how you push yourself and with you the team, because it's important, it's imperative, it's critical that we make sure that all the team members are doing the best, because together we can, alone maybe, but we are making sure that it's not a maybe, and it's always an optimistic goal or objective, whatever you have it in mind. So moving on, and again, like Pratik said, it's interactive, and please feel add your comments and questions in the chat. Just feel free to stop me. This session is for you guys. This session is like to unlock, like we can say maybe like a formula, also like an empirical formula, just to make sure that what is out there, how do you have to make yourself, and there's no stigma, there is no form of a right answer. It's more word against
वो है यहाँ पे
whatever is basically
तू शैम्पू करेगा ना एक बार हम डैंड्रफ निकलेगा सर से
sorry. Oh, not a problem. So yeah, so from here, let's just start. So feel free to add your comments, your feedback in the chat, and I'll make sure I'll do my best to answer that. So again, I'm sure you guys have watched the movie Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons. That's why I took the title. It was like something which was like catchy from that perspective. So I call this as my curious case, because it's why I got interested in management education. It's a very as a 18-year-old, 18, 19, I guess, when I was in my undergrad, I thought of this. So I did my marine engineering at Indian Maritime University in Chennai, and as any other marine engineer, you are preparing yourself to go work in a vessel, in a cargo, a vessel which carries all types of cargo, which is containerized, oil tankers, things like that. It's from that perspective, and then you go move up the ranks. So one of these classes which we had, I believe it was called, I believe, ship operations and management. There was this thing which came to my mind, that I'll be working in one ship, okay, and from there, I'll get promoted and I'll give exams and everything, and that's so and so forth. But what if I can manage a fleet, now manage a network of ships? Like, what if that is possible? But again, from that perspective, an 18, 19-year-old, did not have that, idea, that clarity of thought. From that perspective, I started thinking and exploring. And what I saw was really interesting. There is something, of course, there was something which was there, and people are doing it. It was called ship management, fleet management, crew management. So the management word was utilized a lot. And we all take it for granted. Why management word? Like, what is management? It's managing whatever is possible in your life. And this is, I believe we'll talk more about it as we proceed in the talk, is what is management and how we are going to use this management to do everything in life, basically. So this is like a basic form of like a basic necessity in life. And from that perspective, my road to management learning and how it had a great impact in my life, that's where you connect the dots. You come to a B school and you have like 35, 36, 37 subjects in 2 years, okay, and you have hundreds and 150 presentations, case studies, and things like that. So there, like Professor Atmanam said, it's like you have so many presentations. You actually get to understand what needs to be done. Like from there, you understand time management, you understand people management, you understand, risk management, you understand all types of management possible. It's actually life management. Like what a B school teaches you is like a workshop, but you get to see a pilot version of what you will be as a person when you are in life, when you are outside. And that's basically what management education taught me, is how I can make do like the best of a situation and take it from there and scale it. Like the entire evolution of human history, and the entire reason why we are here together is we have scaled hitherto undreamt of, uh, you know x's, basically like 3.5x, 100x, leave all that. It's something infinity x, so many times we have scaled, we have expanded, we have broken the horizons, gone down to the center of the earth, gone outside earth, like amazing. So this is something which has always been really, really uh, interesting of what human beings can do. And this is where you get to unravel, learn, practice, and somehow try to make something out of it in this 2 years which you have. Again, you learn so many years, till your 12th standard, and then do your bachelor's, and then you get only 2 years. Out of that, you have your internship, your life projects, your like all other projects which you're doing, plus your case study competition, things like that. You literally have no time, but you have to, make do of whatever you have the best. That's how you learn that time management, and that's where I was pushed. And the best way to define this is you are your own competition, and you make sure that you prepare your own benchmarks. That's where I decided to explore more, because I have a maritime connection. I've worked in ports in India, and here I got a chance to work in the port of Los Angeles, uh, through my school, my grad school here, and that was interesting because I was in a class of candidates who were having experience. Maybe some had master people having MBA doing their masters, like 5 to 10% of the entire class generally, and very rare to find. So the max audience which I had were new. So I had an edge over them where I already knew the concepts, because management concepts are very, very basic, very, very simple. But if you learn them, if you know them, if you basically absorb them, it'll make you for life. And we'll see that how that happens. And again, uh, I believe all the professors who are teaching you, and you can always Google these things. This is the age where you can always find anything, any information. But the power of common sense is something which is what needs to be established, what needs to be um, socialized. That's how we go about it. So again, what is that moment? Where do you get the sense of a strategy? Like, and this, when I say strategy, it's not a business strategy, it's not like a government strategy, it's not like external strategy. Basically, it's your internal strategy. Like, you as a person, you as an individual, what ticks you? What is that turning point which makes you create, okay, like, in this time, this is what I have to achieve, in 2 years, this is what I have to achieve, things like that. So you plan for things, you plan for it's either a financial goal, it's either a career goal, it's either it has to be some sort of a goal which you try to achieve, and you create your benchmarks, your KPIs. You all know that management jargon. But what you do is you find that one pulse, you find that one defining moment, which makes you, which pushes you basically to create your own strategy, because you're out there on your own, okay, and you have hundreds, like within your batch, within your class, you have hundreds of students, okay. But if you see from on a national basis, they're competing with a lot more. If you see in an international basis, you're competing with a lot more. So if you see this, you should always see yourself as a part of a global community, a part of a global professional community, where you have the responsibility to contribute to the community or collaborate with the community to create options, solutions for either society, either, any, like when I say society, it defines it, inculcates it, it culminates everything which we have generally. That's the best way to show how do you find a defining moment. Like you are studying right now, maybe you want to take finance, maybe you want to take operations or HR. Why do you want to take this? Like, what is your main focus to this? What is, how can you make sure that you have a comparable knowledge in terms of all the other candidates, all the other B schools which are there in the country, nationally and internationally? So that's where you create your own niche, your own identity. Because during these times, and again, I'm trying to be more optimistic here. Everybody has a master's, everybody has a PhD, everybody has an MBA. What makes you difference is you having an opinion. Your opinion, you know, it might be right, it might be wrong, but it's your opinion, and something which is yours can't be plagiarized, and it's your copyright over it. So more you think, the more you apply your common sense, the more you utilize the management principles, theories, the strategies, it will help you shape your own strategy, your own plan, your own path, which will lead you to wherever you want to go. Success is something which we all know. Again, I'm not trying to redefine things here. Success is something which you think you are satisfied with. That's a success. Not some Forbes magazine, or a Forbes, like any other, like a Business Outlook, memento or anything. That's not like that's when you're trying to market yourself. Like that's where you're getting the celebrity status. Success for you, for any one of us, should be getting that path and going in that path and making sure that we are moving forward. That's where you kind of get that defining moment, and your strategy and your journey, kind of a thing from there. So moving forward, so unfortunately 2020 has been a real, like a really, I won't say bad, because again, this was kind of unanticipated, but again, that's how, things are. Like that's how, like we have a cycle of recession, uh, and again, things going up and getting back at the same pace. But the main thing which which we understand is we can't predict things, even when it comes to models. Someone said that models, however great they are, they tend to predict wrong at times. So the bottom line is you cannot rely on models. So what do you do in this state? Human mind is capable enough to protect itself only if it is allowed, it's given the freedom, the leeway to think. Thinking is the most important aspect of anything what we are doing right now. As you see, and you must be seeing the news, you must be hearing, COVID-19 has taken a hit on all the levels you can think of, from a personal level to a professional level to a micro level to a macro level, anything and everything. And it's and the the widespread impact, negative impact again, is still unknown, because we are still not, like from perspective of of how things are in the US, and again, as we are having an honest conversation here, there has been a lot of issues that the governments, the businesses should have avoided, but then because it's a capitalist country, we are facing a lot of issues which the government is not able to provide subsidy to ensure the normal life of all the people is going on. That's something which is not the best scenario. Like that's something which doesn't work um, for the people. So this again brings us to a thought that we had a notion of developed countries, and this is what the condition is. And the US is a classic example of how the supply chains have taken a hit and how things were broken. Things still are. Everybody's trying to do their part, and hopefully things will get better. But as we see, this pandemic has made sure, and it actually showed that none of us are prepared. Like today, if we lose, let's say, electricity, if we lose the normal source of power, we don't have alternatives. Like this is something which taught us that we need to have alternatives. We need to have different angles to the way we approach to things. This has actually helped us to push us to think more, to help us understand what are the different ways. This is nothing thinking out of the box. This is actually thinking in the box, okay, to survive in the box. Basically, we don't. So this is generalized thinking from that perspective, and that's how COVID-19, however deadly it is, it gave us an opportunity, and we'll understand that how. And when this has hit us, we our main objectives, our plans, our paths, everything has changed, or maybe upgraded or downgraded, whatever it is. It differs from individual to individual, because what happens is, and however crude it is, any form of a suffering, any form of experience, any form of uh, an impact to an individual is very personal. You can't ask your friends, you can't ask your parents, you can't ask anybody to take that uh, impact in your place. You'll have to face it. So what do you do to basically get that straight? That's what we'll discuss here. Sorry. Yeah. So here I'll just talk about what is global supply chain, what were the latest trends, and from that perspective, how do we need to reaffirm, like what does it take to reaffirm the businesses and the governments so that they can make a much larger contribution? Because from my understanding, these are the two entities in the world, the business and the government, which basically manage anything and everything. Whatever we are talking about, whatever we are discussing, that's all managed by these two entities. And and when I say businesses, when I say governments, I mean the entire world. All businesses, big, small, medium, whatever. Everybody has a contributing factor in this entire plan of things, in the entire scheme of things, in the grand scheme of things, basically. And from that perspective, global supply chain, it sounds a bit fancy. It's not. It's maybe this is something which people will differ from that, and maybe it's not something which is understood, or maybe if it's understood well, also it's still not clear why, because it's simplified enough. I'm sure you all understand what a supply chain is, and it's basically as simply as you put. Start something manufacturing, you get the raw materials from the source, manufacture it, and then push it, logistics of it, okay, to the consumers, to the retailers, and then you have the sales from there. As simple as it gets. since it is a simplified, is it a complex or whatever, it's a chain of events that happen which go, like just in a assembly line, manufacturing line, but how it happens, it's a chain of events, so that's why it's called a chain. And we have the supply is based on the demand, things like that. We can get that in the internet. But there's the six main factors which are important, which are challenges, which are trends, which are issues, which are opportunities, which are shown us today. Why do we need to make sure that supply chains are targeted to be better or not? And from that perspective, data. And I'm really, this gives me real happiness. Okay, like Indians in the US are respected because they are smart and they're able to make a real change. There's nothing more fulfilling when it's actually, to be honest, it's actually a good thing that people assume Indians to be smart. It plays on your favor. Okay. And I'm not saying that all Indians are not smart. I'm not saying from that perspective, but I'm saying that it always gives you an opportunity to make sure that you are given the center stage and you are pushing the boundaries. And I'm happy that Mr. Mukesh Ambani, he was able to say data is the new oil, because we are in the age where we are gathering trends, we are gathering insights, we are gathering each and every view, of course, legally. Okay, leave all the other news that has broken out in terms of consumer data hacking and things like that. This I'm talking about proper data which is helping healthcare, logistics, it's helping the world governments, it's helping even the COVID-19 cases, how many cases are registered. Like today, we have real-time dashboards telling each and every region how many cases have been registered, how many cases, the deaths, the rate of cases per million, per thousand. Inside that is, yes, sorry. Any questions? Okay, cool. So that insight is really, really. Sorry. Yes. Moving forward, in terms of data, the pivotal point, as we understand in this perspective, makes us the front runner of what we think is best for us. Like, just to break it up, not to ramble here. You see any trend, you see like any information, you are able to metricize, quantify it, to understand what are the trends. You're able to forecast it, find out where things are moving. In terms of, let's say I need 10 things to work on today. Tomorrow I have 20 things. Things like that. So anything which is numerically sufficient enough to understand, to comprehend, that is defined by data. And I am sure you all have a much better understanding on that. And or if not, you are working towards getting it better. So that's where we are. Like, data is the new oil. Okay. And either mining it or understanding it or using it to build insightful knowledge, that's the ways of moving forward. You are using data, you are leveraging data to understand where, like, what is the actuality of things. There is nothing estimated. There might be things estimated. There's nothing guess. There's no guesswork here. There's no, oh, maybe. There's no maybe here. There is hard facts, hard stats, basically, telling us how data is coming forward, and how data is utilized to move, like in all the cases, not in businesses, but in everything. But in this particular case, supply chain visibility, control is greatly dependent on the utilization of data. Coming to the next one, technology. We have heard about the technological advancements since, I think, we were old enough to understand what technology is. But at this point, and this at this critical point in during these COVID-19 times, we have seen a great leap of technology advancement. Like, look at this instant. We are all interacting. We are all having the best way to talk to each other clearly, okay, and participate in this forum, which, and the thing is, the best part is this is much better than hosting an event personally, because again, that has constraints. You have 100 people, 200 people. Again, I'm not against hosting personal events where there's good formal interaction and everything, but this is to taken to a next level where you have global individuals trying to interact from each and every part in each and every culture, each and every. So this is actually taking it to the next level where you are able to put everybody together in one room, even though they are not in one room. So that's where we have broken the boundaries of everybody who is in the world and taken it here. So here the technological change, supply chains are, again, you'll be amazed to hear this. Even the biggest of the biggest companies are still using Excel sheets. Again, I'm sure some of you are interning and some of you are working or doing live projects. This is something which you'll be amazed to understand, that whatever we see as the enterprise resource systems or management information systems, these systems do exist, but the integration part of it doesn't exist. There is no talking to each other. There is no artificial intelligence or machine learning. That's where we are moving forward, where we are able to, where these technological products, these algorithms, uh, are able to predict, to understand what the next trend is. So that's really interesting, and that's where we are moving forward, and that's where we are advancing exponentially from my perspective. And moving forward to global responsibility, this is something which is really simple in terms of what is each and every. When I say global responsibility, it's not like personal responsibility. It's more or less like how countries, how companies can basically work together, and how individuals can work together to make sure that if there's a deficiency at a point B, and point A has more resources, how they can transfer this. Any transfer of those resources, or any form of a world aid or any form of a crisis aid, basically, is defined by global responsibility. And that's where, that's, you can also say that as a social responsibility. But this, at this time, it's not a social responsibility, because I from my understanding, a social responsibility is something when you have a kind of a relevant, like kind of a relevant contribution that you have to do to a society, because you have taken things from the society. Like for example, I have gotten great insights and education from MDIM Murshidabad, and this is my way, like in the smallest form, to give back to the community. But here, global responsibility is something which is, we need it right now, because we are having problems in real time. So this is a responsibility which is not social enough, but it's something which has to go forward, whatever, in whatever case possible. Automation, from, think of it like what does automation mean here? We have come from industrial revolution in the 1700s, where things were run in silos, to now where things are moving from one place to another and integrated. And from that perspective, so you are able to take a manual process and turn it either through technology, or through any other, like maybe you don't need it also. It's from that perspective. So how you are making these processes turn into self-sustaining workflows, self-sustaining tasks, basically, where there is no need of human intervention, which basically it makes sure that humans are able to think of more strategic goals than doing daily tasks. And at this point, where we have the the minimal contact because of the COVID-19 cases, automation has become a great stride to move forward from this. That's basically how it is. And from there, we have an opportunity to go to new paradigms. Coming to monetary and people, the thing is, I combine monetary and people because there's a certain correlation to this. When I say monetary, it's not about your personal savings only. It's about all the you know the government monetary aid, all the stimulus funds, which and some any aid which the the government or the businesses or people they're gathering, just to make sure that we are able to manage these economic crises. And uh, this starts from a more economic understanding, where again I don't want to go deep into it, but this goes hand in hand, because people are affected if there is a stop of any form of a business or an activity which gives them. Sorry. Yeah. So basically, monetary aspect and the people aspect go hand in hand, and from that perspective, the government spending, the business spending, the revenue, the loss of revenue, the loss of customers, that, because people, if they're not paid, if they don't have the money to spend, the discretionary income to spend, they would not be able to buy services or products. And in turn, this is an entire vicious circle that is interdependent on a lot of things. So these two become the critical factor of a supply chain, and how businesses, big businesses, global businesses who have reserves, who have cash reserves, who have good relations with other governments, they have the sole basic responsibility to make sure that this goes forward without any form of a disruption of lifestyle, or any form of disruption of services of any kind. So this is a great quote by Warren Buffett, and this actually talks about vulnerability. So he says, "Only when the tide is out do you discover who has been swimming naked." It's funny actually, but you come to think of it, if if there's no tide and if you're swimming naked, it's fine. Maybe things are, water is still, and it's okay. But if you are not prepared, if you don't have like a swimming suit and everything, it's like you can be unprotected when there is no tide. When you have a certainty, when there's uncertainty, companies, governments need to be ready to make sure that if there is any high tide or low tide, because let's say we have a good indication of data that what the tides will be, okay, but again, that's a prediction, that's a forecast, and like I said before, models may be wrong. So what do you do when this vulnerability hits? That's a question that companies should ask themselves, and that's how things should be moving forward. And that's how the buffer, a great buffer needs to be created, which is factored on what are the aspects, like all the aspects which we talked about are given, if not equal, but a critical importance is touched upon all these aspects as we move forward. So again, change of gears here. Uh, we talked about global supply chain and its impact and its trends. Again, no, we didn't share any data or anything, because I believe all the data you can find online. You can search for it. But are there any questions you have? Just before we move forward, before we have any more input.
Hello. May I ask?
Yes, please. Yes.
Hi, I'm Shivang Shukla from 2016-18 batch. First of all, I'm very much thankful to alumni committee for inviting me, and I'm very much delighted to see that our juniors are doing things in a better way that we had done earlier. And also, I'm very much thankful to our honorable directors sir, and our professors who are guiding students in the right direction. And I, being alumni of college, will always be very happy to be part of anything that involves the scope of your learning, your attitude, improving scope of your attitude and your knowledge. Now coming back to the existing session, I have a minor question. Thank you, Niraj Bhaiya. You are doing it pretty well while explaining the global supply chain. I have a very minor question.
Yes, please.
Where does India's supply chain stand in comparison of USA? Their parameters are, say, automation, say, logistics, etc. Where is India's supply chain stand in comparison of USA? And apart from labor reform, what do you think it will take for India to come at par of USA?
So that's a really good question. But honestly, from what I have seen here, apart from the population, which is basically 1/3 of what we have right now in India, the supply chains in the US, they are they are not that automated. In India, we have a much better understanding because we have a codependency, which is a more jugaad codependency, if you know what I mean. Okay, which is not there in the US. In the US, things are more straightened, more streamlined comparatively. Okay, but if there is any disruption in that, people are not able to revamp it. So I believe from that perspective, the indigenous knowledge that is there in India is much higher. But in terms of the factories, the power, the capitalism which is there, that's where people are able to establish more uh, here. But in terms of like you said labor reforms, they are when I say in terms of it's much better, but the minimum wages could be much higher. But compared to India, the segregation, the saturation is not there. Like it's India still has an opportunistic scale of having investments in supply chain. It's like there's an exact model which Next Trucking has in the US, which is done by many companies in India, and they are trying to make sure that because of the boom after Geo, that people started using smartphones, they are trying to leverage each and everybody. But again, if we take a step back, how can we simplify these things? Because there are places where there's network connectivity issues and things like that. So to answer your questions, India is not backward in terms of how the supply chain is. Like the model, the dependencies, the priorities are different in the country, in these two countries. Here, what happens is this country is dependent on other countries to get major critical resources, where India, on the other hand, the has its resources on its own, and it's again, if you go into economics, the trade deficit and everything, that's a different aspect altogether. But what we see is there needs to be a change in focus to invest for companies to go to India to invest, which is what is happening right now. But in the US, I believe there's this is what the saturation has reached to. Like there might be other technological improvement that can go on, but what will happen is they will be depending on India, they'll be depending on Indonesia, they'll be depending on all other countries after this downturn is comes out of China. All these countries will be benefited from that, and that's where we think we are going. So I believe each country has its own pros and cons. Okay, so I don't think there is any form of a lag there, but again, there is a good form of an opportunity. So Again, this is a long answer, but I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So moving forward, consulting. Again, I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in this, and there'll be case interviews and things like that, which I'm sure you guys will be preparing for. But we always forget um, the very start of our, of us to consult to basically propose our idea is when we start, when we have our MBA interviews, when we have group discussions. This is where you're trying to project, you're trying to sell an idea. Okay. And that's the basic of consulting. That's how you draw an image and you're trying to push it. Like you can always go to the websites and learn about management consulting, operation consulting, innovation consulting, design consulting, all those things. That's not what we are discussing here. What we're discussing here is what it takes. What is, like, if I were to say, what are the steps for you to consult someone? You'd be like, okay, you won't go, okay, let me just go to the management consulting one-on-one. No, you won't do that. What you would do is, okay, these are the steps which I have, and I'll just go about it. That's exactly what I'm trying to do here. So in this entire process, this is broken down into three aspects here. Okay. One is the estimation aspect, one is the innovation aspect, and another one is the do it aspect, that you just go and get it done. That's as simple as it gets. Okay. And from that perspective, when you talk about, for example, you have to talk about a market estimation. Like, there are, you want to launch a product, a region, the population. You have to estimate what will be the usage of the product, what will be the revenue from the population, what is the income scale, gender ratio, all those heuristics. You basically draw out a model. Okay. In terms of, if this business model of yours is fit to go into a market, that's how it's called, go to market. As simple as it gets. And again, I'm not here to explain what consulting is, but basically give you an idea of how you can use these practices in your day-to-day lifestyle, in your day-to-day activities, just to make sure you think in that perspective. And when you think in that perspective, you try to gather more and more understanding, more insights, and you'll notice this as you go, that your strategy, your approach becomes more and more stronger. Moving back to innovation, this can be like, again, sticking to the COVID times, taking out a vaccine or a tablet or anything that has to do with it. How do you create a better experience, like from that perspective? Or you have a new technology. Yeah, we actually took phones, transformed them into a smartphone, and then we are trying to close it back again. That's how it is. Like, we are trying to make sure that we are creating the environment which is more and more you know vibrant, to use technology, to simplify it, to drive the costs down, to make sure it's available to everybody, so that we can go to the next level. How do you create a better experience? So that's one place where consultants, as as professionals, try to go with the company. They understand where they want to innovate, and then they try to make sure how they can approach, what's the strategy for it. Third one here is more on the operations consulting side. So you must have heard management consultants doing this, that, but these are not operation consultants. These are not the people who are actually making changes here. They are just telling you what to do, but you still have to do the changes. Operation consultants are doing these changes. They are creating the strategy, and they are making sure that if the, let's say you have to increase the efficiency of a manufacturing plant by 5%. So these are the tools which you have to use: Kanban, Lean, Six Sigma, whatever you have to use it. You increase it by 5% and you implement it, continuously improve it, have an operational excellence framework, move forward, and then still be in the loop to make sure that things are running smoothly. Simple as it gets. So moving forward, this is something which I iterated it a little bit, but this ensures how you move forward in life. Okay, and this is like, you can say, like a life mantra or a formula or anything you want to see. How to speak, and this is not like how to speak which I'm speaking right now. It's a simplified form of, how do you have to start thinking from all angles. When I say all angles, like all angles possible, like you have to make sure that you push forward a winning goal, no matter what the scenario is. Like if it's raining, if it's sunny, whatever it is, you're able to do that. How do you do that? If you are able to jot down, what are the ways, like you can assume, like what are your set of assumptions, thinking of from everything, picking your approach and gathering data. Like I said before, your approach and the data which is there with you is really important, because this gives you um, a good understanding of how can you empower yourself, how can you give yourself that ability to calculate things, to make sure that you are able to come to a conclusion, you are able to push forward the understanding of all the trends and everything, from that perspective. And then you take an approach with all your alternatives, like you have alternative strategies. Again, you never go with one plan. Again, everybody knows this, okay, but you have to make sure that you always have an alternate strategy. Even though all your plans fail, you still should be able to make do. Like the best of the best situations always arise from not your first plan, not your second plan, but maybe the third or the fourth plan, which you thought, oh, maybe it's not reality. But then drones were not a reality, but they are right now. Talking to each other like this was not a reality, but they are right now. So this, you know, is a consequence, a derivative of what we think as an alternative turns out to be the mainstream impact of our lives. And the last part, we need to keep adjusting, we need to keep iterating, we need to keep having a feedback loop just to make sure that we are able to push forward the best possible approach and still change it. Because what happened to Nokia, because it still used Symbian operating system. Android took over. That's what happened to it. Okay, it still started. So if you're not with the trends, if you're not changing with the trends, you'll be a past. You won't have a present, and that will also lead you to not having a future. Moving forward, the biggest question: how can MBA students change the world? Is there a formula? And from that perspective, I think um, MBA students can change the world, okay, because you have all the tools, all the resources, all the knowledge in these 2 years with your activities to ensure that you are able to get, like I discussed, the basic idea, the common sense to move forward. Is there a formula? I would give you a very simple answer to that. Yes, there is a formula, and we'll talk more about it as we move forward. As you move out from your MBA program, as you get a job, as you get to take a new project, take a new assignment, you know exactly what needs to be done. Okay, and you take up a problem. It's as simple as it gets. You feel hungry, you make yourself food, or you get something to eat, and you satisfy your hunger. That's how it is. In this process,
Neeraj,
sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but taking this context, there's a certain question by Ishmita who has asked you in chat box that after MBA, what made you think of pursuing another master's? Like, what was the driving force behind it?
Uh, that's a good question. The thing is, like I said, curious case, right? I've been always so curious that yes, what if question has not made me sleep at nights. It's like this what if question is like, what if this can happen? Then what's the scenario? So I wanted to experience coming into a different country. Again, it's a risk, because you landing up a job, you landing up things like that. It's always a risk, but experiencing that in a global stage, leaving your comfort zone is something which I thought is important. And it the the best way to enter this country is through an education, and that's the simplest answer I can give. But I wanted to learn more in terms of what is exactly happening here. And I understood, like, again, going back to Shivang's question, which he asked earlier, there is no difference as such here. It's just a resource change from where we have a lot of people, a lot of population, a lot of human capital in our country, to a lot less human capital, okay, in this country. That's why immigrant workers here, like, come here and make sure things are running. If immigrant workers leave today, US will stop and freeze. I hope
Okay,
this
so
answers the
yep.
question.
So adding to this question, there is one more question from Fatima,
Yes.
that all the courses and the programs which you have pursued, she finds on your LinkedIn profile that you have been a rank holder in all of them, and wants to know that how big of a role did that play in your career?
Uh, well, again, that's like I said earlier, that's it's more of a personal benchmark, It's you never basically take that, like, it's not like, oh, I have to be a ranker and then I have to study. You don't do that. It's like you have to basically like something. If you don't like something, you just don't like something. Like, for me, I never understood the HR reforms and labor laws and everything, and it's not like something which is, it's a really important thing, but I had a hard time coping with that. And that's something which, again, if you're I'll tell again a cliched answer, like more of a template answer. If you're not passionate about it, you don't succeed. But then again, if I have to tell it, like, simply, you really need to realize why are you studying a subject. It's you really need to think critically. You need to feel the pulse, okay, when you read a certain text. It's like, I'm like, when you read, like, what is like, for example, what is leadership, what is, getting out of the box, what is thinking out of the box. You need to resonate with these terms. You need to put yourself, like, if you're reading a case study of Volkswagen factory, recalling all the cars, you need to put yourself as a plant manager there, okay, or you need to put yourself in the Volkswagen headquarters, the reverse logistics business, as a head, and imagine what would you do in that scenario. When you have that answer, that's exactly, exactly what tools you need. It's like you have to build, let's say, a sand castle, okay. So exactly, you need this much sand, you need this much water, you need this much water, like, you know exactly what the ingredients are. So in this scenario, being a rank holder is not the goal, okay. Being really good at what you do, being really good at what you think, is more important. If you're able to take that route, everything else will be taken care of. Everything else, because this is a cause and dependent relationship, the cause and effect. Your causation to achieve excellence leads to an effect where you are having a rank, having a certain form of impact in the world, or wherever you are. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess that was pretty much it. Thank
Awesome.
you, thank you.
Definitely. And moving forward, so this is a very simplified diagram which I did. Like, what's your roadmap in life? You enter an MBA college, okay. You have 2 years of your life. You do whatever, you exactly know what you have to do and everything. Then you get a job, okay, and then you get a promotion. Then you get a launch. What is this job? Why there is a difference between the getting your job after your MBA and the launch, and why there's promotion in between? We can maybe skip that also. But the main understanding in this entire process is, from your job to launch, so this launch factor is, you are like the best self, everything. When I say everything, you still have to learn, of course. Learning is a continuous process which you go through your entire life. But the launch part is somewhere where you are able to actuate not only yourself, but the team, and this is what MBA teaches you. How do you make silos, standalone processes, people working alone, people working in different, like people can be individual performers, superstars, great, thinkers, amazing talent. But how do you make sure that you are able to bring them together closer? And if you're able to, shorten this from job to launch, if you're able to shorten it, that's where your winning is basically. And the more you align, again, the promotion aspect is again a self aspect, like the question which was asked earlier. Okay, this promotion aspect is more or less how you're contributing to the business and things like that. This launch can also come before the promotion. This launch can also come before the job also. This launch can come during MBA too. So this is like a timeline of all the people. And I'm not saying this because I've taken like a count of, like, I didn't do any experiment or hypothesis on this. This is just more of a opinion of understanding. But like, believe me, I've met a lot of people from different countries, different cultures, and this is what the actual scenario is. Okay, and this is what, like, I think that why do you have to be 35, 45 to become a vice president of a company? Okay, from my understanding, from my perspective, companies hire you not from your past experience, but on the basis of what you can do in the future. Okay, maybe like mostly companies do hire you on the past experience. I'm not denying that fact, but the main thing is, if you're able to make yourself as an individual which can do things, which when you can do things without an experience in that makes you more valuable. Like, let's say in my previous company I didn't do a certain job, and this company I come in, a new company, and I'm able to do that job. That makes you an expert in taking anything and everything and then molding it the best way, streamlining it, and then making sure that pushing it. That's what the job of an MBA is. It is not functionally dependent. Even if you take operations or finance or anything, it's still not functionally dependent. It is in that function you are able to basically take anything and everything and turn it into a, a great self-sustaining process, and that's the goal of it. And I hope this makes sense. So coming to the last slide and to the end of the presentation. So these are unprecedented times. These are times which we did not anticipate, but this isn't bad. Okay, this now today, what you can do is you can just hit up a small business, go to a kirana store and say, what issues you're having, things like that. You have digital transformation taking place in such a vast scenario by geo, at this point. And just from, again, I'm talking from a really like high level perspective, but just go to your local stores, or go to your local areas where there's a need, where there's, utilize your management education expertise, in thinking products and services, in determining products and services of tomorrow, basically. Like, how you can make sure that we don't need masks anymore. How can you make sure, and all this is an example when I'm saying, how do you make sure that you're able to transfer things from one place to another without giving a call to anyone? How can you make sure that you can make all the transaction paperless, things like that? People have thought about it, and they have created solutions which is amazing. This is your time to think more about it. Like, getting a job, starting as a, like, again, student debt, expectations, things like that. I get it, I understand, but that shouldn't be the thing that drives you. The one thing that should drive you is to make yourself unique. You are a batch of 120, 150, x number of people. Okay, if you're able to say all the people, all the x's in that are unique, I won't be able to add it because it'll be x1, x2, x3, so on and so forth. That's the power of of understanding like what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. When you say that, it's not being compliant with the company, but saying that, okay, I have a different mindset. Okay, I'm going to utilize this mindset with my education, with what I've learned in my undergrad, with what I've learned in my life as I was growing up, as a kid, as an adult, to make sure that I give you the best possible scenario, best possible strategy, best possible push to move forward in life. And that's where it is your ability, it's your time to shine. And yeah, from that perspective, it makes it clear that it is possible to do anything and everything. Like at this point, uh, to be more frank, we are competing with the third generation IIMs. We are competing with all the second campuses, sister campus of all of the institutions and things like that. And you might be, at times you might feel like, okay, these people are better than me, or I can do better, things like that. Always remember, you have all the tools and resources at your disposal to make the best of it. And now things have gone digital, so now is the time that there is, you can showcase with great portfolios through a presentation. Make your website. If you want to really influence someone, make your website. You have all these free websites which you can do with, which charges zero cost. Try to think of paradigms where people have not thought. Try to solve a problem. You solving a problem will make you lead, go to a certain place which nobody would have thought you would go, even you. And when you get there, you'll be grateful that you actually thought you would, you could do this. And that's about it. So yeah, again, I'll actually share this with the team, this presentation. Plus, I'll share my speaker notes at this point. Like I'm as I'm speaking, like I have speaker notes for this. Plus, as I'm speaking, I'm using Google Transcribe to record, like from my speech to text, everything, basically. And so I'll go through this later. But I'll put that in my LinkedIn, and you can download it and go through it. Things like that. Plus, again, what I showed you is pretty much the common sense of things. You can find the data information online. But yeah, I believe, Pratik, we can start the questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So thanks a lot for this informative session. Moving on, next we will have Q&A session. So before we start, I would just like to apologize to Protem. I pronounce him as Protema. So sorry for that. Apart from this, we can move on to the Q&A session. So the attendees, if they have any questions, they can start asking. They can unmute themselves one by one and start asking questions.
I think I have a
Okay, so we have, in the chat, we have questions.
So what would you suggest now to do before starting our program and in the initial phase of our MBA? That's a really good question. Okay. And I think that's a question that everybody should ask to themselves, like before starting the program, or if you're in the initial phase of your MBA, the first thing you should do is, like, you already know why you're doing an MBA. Okay. Because you either want to upgrade yourself, or you want to get out of your, job at this point, or maybe explore something new. You need to have a goal of why you're doing an MBA, and that's something. And gain as much, like read as much magazines, read as much blogs as possible. Like at this point, understand about the startup ecosystem. I would suggest each and everybody, okay, to have an entrepreneurial mindset, to try and take risks. Because everybody is kind of complacent enough to get molded into, yeah, this is what I have to do and this is what the things are. But I would suggest and I would recommend you all to take risks. And that's what the initial phase of your MBA should be. Take as much risk as possible. Of course, study. That's important. That's how you keep on maintaining a certain benchmark. But take risks. Go to as much competition as possible. Read as much as you can. Get a good understanding of things. because this is the time where you can utilize to, expand and expand as much as you can, and then move forward with a great thrust, and this will give you the thrust. So I hope, like, this is again a more abstract answer which I gave, and I hope this suffices.
Well, in case anyone has any more questions.
What difference you would consider between initial phase of our considering change? Okay, great question again. So the thing is, this limitation, you have to turn this into an opportunity, and this is something which, I believe I was talking to one of my batchmates, Mr. Ankur Agarwal, and he was pretty much like, I was trying to learn from him about the blockchain aspect in the finance sector, and he was telling me about this. Like, so the reason I brought this up is, each and every aspect of this limitation constraint leads to an opportunity. If you're able to find, like, before, what used to happen is you used to have in-person interviews, okay, and now in-person interviews are not happening. So how do you make sure that you are able to reach everybody? So LinkedIn is utilized more right now. There may be a time where LinkedIn was not utilized, or maybe recruiters were not answering in LinkedIn. Now they have to. Now the things will change. So you have to utilize this limitation as an opportunity. Again, a cliched answer, again a template answer, but you have to understand that one aspect, okay, that one critical aspect, which you think is important for you. If you think sustainability in HR is important, okay, so you work towards it. You write white papers, you write notes, you take notes, you understand, make yourself the expert in sustainability in HR, okay, showcase that. I'm sure this limitation will turn into an opportunity. I hope that answers.
Hello, good afternoon, all. I'm Ankur Agrawal.
Hi, Ankur.
Hi, Niraj. So, I would like to congratulate all of my juniors and my colleagues, Niraj and Shivang, to be the part of this session. And it's been a great initiative. Niraj, my question, or what my there has been a query in my mind, which I want you should share with other of our juniors also, and that is, what will be the world post COVID? So for example, currently people are the juniors are coming into this institution. What will be the changes, or how will the supply chain or the operation managements will be in 2020, so that they are aware, or the vision which I have or you have for certain industries which we are actually working into, what changes will be in the industry, so that these people know those changes and are prepared by 2022 or 2023 with those skill sets, those knowledge areas. Specifically, I want you to share about supply chain and operations. And I must say, Neeraj has been always 100% in all of his tasks. So it's it is not yeah, but it's true. So Neeraj, I also want you to share or answer this question.
Definitely. That's really kind of you. Good to say that. So specifically speaking, there are two aspects in this question. How students can be prepared to the post-COVID aspect of it. And then how supply chains operations will be impacted, and the technological aspect can alleviate and uplift the entire scenario. So in these two aspects, here, from the student side, you are taking online classes and everything. You are able to basically self isolate, quarantine yourself, and you're able to have a mindset, and you can think of ideas through isolation, and that's something which is, you are reaching to a new level of emotional question, the EQ part of it, because as you all know, and you would have also learned in behavioral sciences and organizational culture aspect, We are looking more on the EQ aspect of managers and not the IQ aspect of it. So you staying at home, you working in front of a computer, okay, you trying to virtually talk to everybody and make sure things are running. That gives you a greater hold that you are able to, you don't need to be in person and you are still able to manage things. And that is something which will teach you more about, and you are able to contain yourself, even after you are compartmentalized in a place. And that's something which is one aspect. The second aspect, supply chains operations, how they'll change. Well, one thing is there'll be the least human interaction possible. Let's say, for example, contactless payment, contactless, like everything in that perspective. We'll have bots, self-driving cars. From that perspective, moving forward, how things will be moving in terms of using AI, machine learning, and that aspect. Again, we're going very high level here, but we will be able to automate each and every aspect of supply chain. And I believe the students should concentrate on what will be those aspects. If you have to get a knack of data science, if you want to, let's say, learn R, if you want to, let's say, learn Ruby, JavaScript, things like that. If you want to learn Tableau, BI, Chardio, any from that perspective, if you want to learn each and everything, how can you impact the company? How can you make sure that you are self-sufficient enough to 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 change these supply chains, to change these things? And this is the idea which has to come from MBAs, because you run engineers, you run suppliers, you run each and every aspect of it. So that's what my understanding is, and I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have more questions flowing in through our viewers from YouTube. So Joy asked that given an opportunity to do an MBA again at this point of time, what are the things that you would be doing differently?
Okay. So this is a really interesting question. 7.5 years of education, okay, has taught me one thing. Again, not to discourage you all, but if I could have understood the impact of common sense, okay, and the impact of e-learning, I would have just asked my father that give me like a couple of lakhs, okay, of rupees, okay. I can just go to any website and understand the basics of communication, okay, from that perspective. And I just go out and start doing stuff. And from there, like freelancing, either creating websites or helping these small kirana stores, things like that. From there, move on and kind of, again, be a consultant basically. But at this point, like what we do is, like there's like if I have to do MBA again, I would just like to do one thing, which is trying to see and seek, actually not see but seek problems. Okay, what are the problems I have every day, and how can I solve them? That's basically how problem solving is the biggest aspect of basically completing an MBA, and that's something which I would concentrate more on, rather than if I'm late for classes, or if I'm late for this, if I have to do this or do that. And that's the basic formula of it, I guess.
Okay, thanks. Nice. Next, we have Bhavna Bansali asking that amid this COVID-19 has disrupted the modern global supply chain.
Yes.
So, how will US and India survive post-pandemic as we see a trade war with China? What is your take on it, and what new aspects of supply chain can be known in these times?
That's a really interesting question. That's actually, in that perspective, it's like I said, and I have actually covered this earlier, that with the trade wars with China, it gives an opportunity to India, Vietnam, Indonesia, countries, uh, you know, we are able to basically utilize these resources, like whatever was manufactured in China, other countries are able to substitute in this. Like we have studied in microeconomic terms. All these complementary and substitute products. This is what the time would be. So this is a great opportunity for India, okay, to make sure that we are able to create these products. Both manufactured or technology or services, which we have already had before. In terms of knowledge processing, process outsourcing and business process outsourcing before. But this is an entire opportunity to manufacture. This is where the Make in India, objective and aspiration would be realized, and that's where it'll be more incremental for India than being detrimental, I believe.
Okay, thanks. So there's one question which I have of my own,
Okay.
that in this unprecedented times, the whole space of business and industry is changing and it's totally moving online, contactless.
Mhm.
And what the business as we know it today, or in what we knew it in the historical times, will not be the same what we will be seeing it going on in future, right? So how whatever we are studying today, how relevant will it be in context to the future, and is it worthwhile?
So that's a good question. So in terms of relevancy, see, it's like 1 plus 1 is always 2. It can't be 3. So when we talk about relevancy of something, the basics always remain the same. The basic always remain, consistent across the board. What changes is how do you apply these basics, and here, like you said, the contactless payments or contactless businesses or transactions, we are moving in that aspect. So each and every theory, each and every strategy, each and every approach that you have learned needs to be upgraded. It's like you have to make sure that, like, you if you have learned version once of everything, you're making it version 2, version 3, version 4, things like that. And that's where you have to upgrade it. Your basics, what you have learned, is relevant and will be relevant throughout, because the basis of this conversation is, A, B, C, D, E. If you don't have this, we won't be having this conversation at all. Okay. So that remains consistent across the board. So I hope I answered your question there.
Yes, you did. Thanks. So there is two more questions. I'll just club them up from Palak and Pratim.
Okay.
Basically, they are trying to know that during your MBA days, what was the most important aspect which has the maximum impact on your learning, and what is the and what was the fact from which you drew the most benefit out of?
Well, this is a really personal question for me, because my idea of doing an MBA was never to get a job, and it's not like because I come from a well-off family or anything. Because again, like any other, I come from a very very humble background and a normal family. Okay, so my objective always was to learn. Okay, and try to understand how can I make the best of the situation. Very 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 much tempted answer, but the honest aspect here is I was always trying to push myself. Okay, I was always looking at people's profiles. I was always in LinkedIn, and I was always like tracking the events and things like that, and trying to understand that what can I do better. Okay, trying to be really honest with me, that do I really care about something. Like that's something which is what like my like understanding is, like, how can you push yourself. Everybody says that you have to come out of the comfort zone. Why do you have to come out of your comfort zone? What is really like today, you can always take a step back, start your Netflix or whatever, torrent or whatever you want to do, play games, be chill out of and just relax. But after you do that, this is for you to be, as a stress buster or whatever. But after you do that, what is important to you in your life? Is it your happiness or your mom dad's happiness, or are you trying to solve a problem in a society, solve a problem for a business? What is the meaning of your life? Okay, this is what you have to understand. And that's where I understood that I have to learn a lot to be able to push myself to be to be worthy enough to provide opinions which people would listen to, which people would admire. It's not like I'm looking for acceptance from people, but to be to be equipped enough to push like all the boundaries possible. Okay, and that like I said before, and I'll tell this right now, there's no difference from with respect to a graduate who's from Ahmedabad or who's from Stanford or Harvard. I work with these people, no difference, zero difference. The thing is, they might have an older institution, they might have a a richer alumni base, maybe that, and maybe a little bit of here and there, things like that. But each and every aspect remains the same. The more you push yourself, the more you try to make sure that you have all the understanding in the world. That's where you'll stand. Your standing is only dependent on you. And at this point, and from where I was at MDI, and at this point where MDI Murshidabad is, it has grown a lot. Okay, you have great faculty. Okay, and under the stewardship of Professor Atmanand, like this has grown much better. Okay, and even though there are certain deficiencies, all the institutions have it. Every university institution in the world has its deficiencies, and will be that will be always existing. But you'll have to make sure how you utilize it and push your uh, whole learning, whole experience to the next level, so that you can be proud of what you have created. Like, if you say that after 2 years I have not added any value to myself, then that's a waste. You have to keep on adding value every day to yourself. You learn a new word, you learn a new concept, everything. Doesn't matter if you remember it or not. If you create a practice, if you create a discipline like that, again, very, very much template based, okay? But if you create a discipline or an aspect like that, this always helps you to create, like, this shapes you as an individual, and that's how you go from there.
Okay, thank you. I would say this was more than informative. This was motivating and inspiring, rather.
Yeah, of
Anyhow,
course.
so there's a common question from our curious audience.
Yes.
What would be the placement scenario post-COVID when we will be graduating or the next batch will be graduating? What is your anticipation looking into the industry that you're currently working in?
Well, that's actually a pretty sensitive question, I believe. Like, from that perspective, but I suggest, like, from my understanding, my opinion, okay, nothing like, let's say you want to work in operations and you're getting maybe a sales role, maybe you want to work in finance and you're getting like a HR role, whatever, okay, things like, again, you're being more function dependent, and I understand it, but you have to make sure that you have to make the best of each situation. Try to, if you're getting an internship after your MBA, take it. Okay, I understand it's you want to become a manager or a management trainee or assistant manager. I get it. Whatever you can have, take it from there and push it. Try to learn as much. You know, go more towards the data science aspect of it. Don't. I'm not asking you all to become. If you have your like likingness of becoming a data scientist, you become that, but go towards like each and everybody go more towards data, try to understand, try to derive aspects, and take each and everything that comes to you, anything. Like, if you want to do a blog, start a blog. Okay, if you want to start writing about the startup ecosystem in India, start writing about it. Do each and everything that helps you to espouse, to uplift yourself, so that you are equipped enough to withstand anything and everything. Like, let's say tomorrow you don't get a job, you are ready to start an e-commerce store. Okay, source things, become vendor in Amazon.in and start selling things. That's how like you are capable of enough to manage a P&L account, manage your balance sheet, manage an operating model, and scale it from there. And who knows, things will become much better. You'll earn much more, in terms of what you'll do as a job. Amazing. That's the entire aspect of it. Be ready to do unpaid internship. Be ready to do like, help political parties, when the elections are coming in, to talk to your local MLAs, talk to local industries, things like that. Be ready to expand your horizons. Write as much as you can. Write research papers, write white papers, write your opinion. LinkedIn is an open platform. Write your opinion. Just let's say that, for example, Pratik, he can say hashtag Pratik thoughts, and he can start writing. Write about it. There's no right or wrong answer. People will provide their opinion. This is a global community, a global workforce, and this pandemic has brought us more inward, giving us the opportunity to be more outward. Inward as in we are at our homes, and outward through this technology we are interacting with everybody. So that's the greater aspect here, and I hope this answers that question.
Yes, that would be great. And really, we are really thankful for your time and your effort that you have put into this session and the information that you have let out, especially in the context of the contemporary industry that we see as of now. Like, it was really insightful. But unfortunately, as we know, that everything beautiful that ever began must come to an end and only to return again. So, is it with this enlightening and informative webinar? But before we leave, let us hear from the man himself who played a key role in making this happen and has been a constant source of motivation for all of us. I would request Professor Dr. Shubhajit Bhattacharya sir to please share a few words with us and enlighten us with his knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you, Pratik, and thank you to the team. And we were all thinking for last few months, rather, like how we can create a platform where we can interact. I am happy to see all the present student, the alumni, all are flocked together to exchange the knowledge. Because we are thinking in a different perspective whenever we are in the field of academics. We think that getting job and the particular, it's a process, but whatever is more important is sharing knowledge. So I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Niraj for wonderful presentation. Because see, what I was also doing, I was also making some notes, because I love few words that you have actually somewhere in the presentation you have talked about. Like, you have to push yourself. That is the first and foremost thing. Like, if you want to learn more, then you have to teach yourself. That is the best way. That means you have to motivate yourself. That is the wonderful, you have to find the kick within yourself. So the broader perspective, whatever you have talked about, like 5 dimensions of supply chain, it was very good. I would say insightful. And the very important part is that you have rightly said a sentence, that is how much you are ready for the future. That is the equity of individual. So that means, see, this particular I would say it's not only the presentation, it is rather dialogues and conversation. So we all loved it, and I'm very much happy to express my heartfelt thanks to all the alumni. They have also asked some very good questions, and we are feeling like it is not only some kind of uh, knowledge sharing thing, it is also a mini alumni meet as well. So thank you all, the team. And yes, this has actually become successful with the proper guidance and immense support, motivation of our director, sir, Dr. Professor Atmanand, sir. And always, he was always been very enthusiastic in the entire process. He was always asking when we'll start. So now we have started, and we hope that we'll do these sessions more and more. Thank you, Pratik, and thank you all the people out here. Like we are in this particular alumni meet or discussion or knowledge sharing platform. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your kind. I think Pratik, you're on mute.
Pratik, could you please unmute your mic?
Yeah, sure. So I was just saying that how thankful we are to our Professor Dr. Atmanand sir, who has devoted so much of time. We all know what a busy personality he is, and he has devoted so much of time to this session, and the effort and motivation that he has always given us through his words and through his encouraging uh, attitude towards this alumni committee. We are very thankful to Dr. Subhajit Bhattacharya, who has been so motivating and to all of us, and he's that one force who has already always pushed us to excellence and to achieve greater things in life, and be it whatever, not just in regard to this session, but be it everything on campus and regarding academics. We are very thankful to Professor Dr. Biranchi Narayan sir, who has facilitated this whole process, and I think there is nothing more and enlightening which could have been as of on this Sunday that we have in this session through you, Neeraj.
Thank you.
I guess, thanks a lot. So I guess that is pretty much it for today. And I would like to thank all of you for paying us a visit, for giving your time, and for the interesting questions from our participants that we had. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I guess we are good to go.
Good. Thank you all. Take
Yeah,
care.
thank you so much.